This video is about wealth. It's about your perspective of wealth. What does wealth really mean? Hello and welcome to Shelley's Everyday Adventures. I'm Shelley and I am happy that you're here with me today. So this is my perspective on wealth. Now, I grew up poor. I didn't know I was poor. And I'm sure there are many of us out there who have experienced the same thing. So I grew up on a family farm. We never had a lot in the way of cash money. We didn't go out to eat. When we did, it was usually at Christmas. We would go shopping at our local Sears store, which was about 30 minutes from our house. So that was at Christmas time. We would shop there, and it was always an adventure as a child because we would get in the car. We would go to Sears, and on the way home, we would stop at McDonald's, and we would have dinner out at McDonald's, which was something we never did. So we went to McDonald's, and while we were in Sears, before we went to McDonald's, while we were in Sears, they had a candy display where you could go and buy candy. And my dad always loved, and he still does to this day, Swedish Fish. I always preferred the red ones, but back then you didn't get to choose just a red one; you got the multicolored. So he would always get the Swedish Fish while we were in the Sears store, and then we would head out and go back and go to McDonald's and have a burger. We never shopped much for clothes. We didn't have the money for clothes. We only bought what we needed. We made things last. Mom would, we got a hole in our jeans, she would fix it. You know, it wasn't something that you got a hole in your jeans, we went out and bought something else. We didn't have the money for that. But again, as a child, I never saw that. This was just the way we lived, and I accepted it, you know. My mom's mother, my maternal grandmother, was a seamstress, and she could sew just about anything. She loved to sew. She would make our dresses, our Sunday dresses, our holiday dresses, um, anything like that, she would make. And at the time, I didn't think a whole lot of it. It was just something that, happened. She made her dresses. They looked just as nice as anybody else's. And I never gave it much thought. For food, as I said, I grew up on a farm. So we raised our own meat. We raised beef. We raised pork. We raised chickens. We butchered our own chickens, but we did not butcher our own beef and pork. We sent that out to a local butcher. And we did this about once a year, and it was enough to get us through the entire year. We grew gardens, we grew sweet corn and all the things, and we canned and prepared. We prepared, and this is where I learned that preparing is not a bad thing. We had to prepare because we didn't have the money to go out and buy the things, but we had the property. We have over 400 acres here. So we had the property to take care of ourselves. The chickens provided meat and eggs, and we never seemed to go without. The only thing we didn't have, which I didn't think too much about until I went to school, but it still then didn't bother me. We didn't have any much in the way of junk food and sodas and that kind of thing. We drank tea that my mother made because it was cheaper, and junk food consisted of homemade cakes that she would make. So we didn't have much in that respect, and that was fine. It was normal for me. We celebrated birthdays. We always loved to celebrate. I grew up with my aunts and uncles and cousins all around me, and it seemed like we were always celebrating somebody's birthday. So we would, um, basically, it was homemade cake. And my grandfather would go out and get ice cream. He loved ice cream. He was born in 1912, so ice cream wasn't something he had as a child. It was something, and he was very poor. He grew up in Appalachia. So ice cream was something that came along later in his life, and he loved ice cream. We were surrounded by family. We had aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. We grew up with them. We played with them. They were our first friends, and we just lived a carefree, wonderful life. We learned responsibility by taking care of animals on the farm and just helping around the farm. We learned responsibility and we learned what it was like to work, which is important. But I distinctly remember, and here's where later in life, this really hit home for me. Um, I remember this one day I was with my dad. I spent a lot of time on the farm just running around with my dad. And I remember this one day we had an electrician come. He had to look at a motor. I don't remember all the details, but he was working on the motor and him and my dad were joking around. My dad likes to joke. They were joking about something. And the electrician said, I'm so poor, I have to eat hot dogs every night. And dad laughed and said, Yep, me too. And as an 8-year-old child, I was a bit confused because I had never, hot dogs to us, and this may sound silly, but hot dogs to us were a specialty item. We didn't get hot dogs because we just didn't get them. We didn't buy them. Our meat strictly came from the farm, and hot dogs was something extra that we never had. So dad shot back, we do too. That's all we eat. And the electrician, of course, laughed. And me being an 8-year-old child, I was a tad bit confused about that. I spoke up and said, Dad, we never have hot dogs. We always eat steak and roast and burgers. I'd like to have a hot dog sometime. They both roared with laughter. Um, I didn't understand it at the time. Many years later, looking back at that conversation, it has stuck with me. It's stuck with me. And that moment, you know, it just, I didn't realize at that moment, but I realized that we were rich in so many ways. Maybe not in money, but we were rich in land, we were rich in love, we were rich in knowledge of how to survive and all those things. I miss those days. More people need to know how to survive on um, their own. I do know, I do understand that a lot of people don't have the resources to do that. But I want to thank God every day for what He's given me. And I think about the people now who are all, I'll use the word crying, but they're all upset and concerned. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to, how am I going to live without my internet? How am I going to live without my entertainment? And we spent a lot of days without entertainment. Um, my sisters and I would run the fields of the farm. We knew the rules. We knew not to get in with the bull. We knew not to jump in with the pigs. We had rules. We understood the rules. We knew what they were, but yet we were free to roam about. And we would go to the creek in the summer. We didn't have any way to cool off. Back then, we didn't even have an air conditioner in the window. So, on really hot days, we would go to the creek. I have sisters that are twins, and they would catch crawdads in their hands. And I remember those long, lazy days that you think would never end. And now here we are. They've ended. Everything ends, and you have to look forward to a new beginning. So I'm going off on a tangent. I just hope that you found some value in this. The moral of my story here is that wealth comes in different packages, and we need to appreciate what we've got. I want to thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next video.